Hi, I'm Ryan Szymanski, curator for Battleship New Jersey Museum and Memorial, and today we've got a very cool new addition to the collection to tell you guys about. So as you know, Battleship New Jersey is in her configuration from the end of the ship's life in the late 80s, early 90s. So we don't have many of the loose pieces and parts that date back to World War II. Well, a couple of weeks ago we were contacted by a gentleman who said that their father, I believe it was, worked at the Philadelphia shipyard, and when the ship was being reactivated for Vietnam in 1967, he grabbed a pair of benches off USS New Jersey, and then he used them as picnic benches or kept them in his basement or something. There's no way whether or not these came off of this ship. It's not like World War II mess benches are stamped with the ship's name that they were on. However, I asked him to send me pictures, and sure enough, they are authentic World War II mess benches of the size that would have been used on New Jersey, the 8-foot length by about 8 inches wide. So this is what I would expect New Jersey to have had during World War II based on what other ships still in their World War II configurations have. The man's story lines up perfectly. We know that they kept the original World War II benches on board in the 40s and 50s. We're pretty sure that they stayed on board when the ship is mothballed in the 50s because they're maintaining the ship with full non-perishable equipment on board so she can, in theory, be reactivated very quickly. We did a video about the work they did on the 50s, link in the description below if you want to hear more about that. But the story lines up, and we don't have any World War II mess deck benches at all. In 1967, they take all this old World War II era wooden furniture off of the ship, and they replace it with like plastic chairs. Those we always call them egg shell chairs, but they're very 60s, 70s looking. You still see them around today. And then in the 80s, they go to full fixed seating. So we have nothing like this around, so we said, yeah, no, this will be a great addition to the collection. We'd love it if you brought them out and donated them to the ship. So my hope is one day we get a World War II era mess deck table to display with these. And so these are very cool. Nowadays we've got what I call the McDonald's style chairs. They are fixed mess deck benches. You see them on a number of 80s and 90s era ships. You see them in a lot of fast food restaurants from the same era. But prior to that, the mess decks as communal spaces for a significantly larger crew featured all folding furniture like this that could be stowed in racks in the overhead so that you're playing a movie down there and you don't need the tables in the way. Get rid of the tables, set up all the benches as bleacher seating. Hey, you need to do seating on the fantail because you're hosting a religious service instead of down in the mess deck. Well, we're not going to have fixed mess deck seating and a bunch of chairs somewhere, so just bring all this up here. So this is from a time period when living on the ship was much more crowded and much more communal, and that goes away over the ship's career. So let's look at this. It's probably a pine wood construction. Of course, at this point it's over 80 years old, so it looks a little bit deteriorated there. We're going to do some work on that before we put it out on display. It has mostly brass furniture, brass screws on it, and it's got these cast iron bits for the legs and the other pieces that are part of this. So when you're going to put it up for storage, you put the hook there, locks the legs in place so you can put it up on the rack. When you want to use it, you just put it like that, and then the pressure of it sitting on the deck holds this in place, and it's good and solid. We're using cast iron, so that's a less precious resource during World War II. here. The wood, of course, you got plenty of that. The set screw here is an addition by the gentleman who had them to try and hold them together a little bit better. You might also see some staples in this. He had stapled like an AstroTurf style carpet on the top of it because it was the 60s. You'll notice that he also put a coat of paint on it. Obviously the bare wood has deteriorated a little bit and you're seeing big checks open up, so he had tried to fix that by painting it. Looks like he did a coat of green at one point, a coat of red at another point, and then the AstroTurf over that. So we're going to sand this back down, use some putty or something to fill in a lot of these cracks, and then put this out on display. And hopefully we can find a World War II era mess deck table to put with it so we can show on our mess decks nowadays what it would have looked like throughout the first two commissions of the ship's career versus the last commission of the ship's career. This is a display that we never really considered because we didn't have any of these, and most of the World War II era ships have already been stripped. There aren't any more for us to take parts off of, so we didn't think we were going to be able to find these, but now that we've got them, you bet we're going to use them. As soon as we find some stuff to complete the display, we're going to set it up probably in our enlisted mess back aft, which is most likely where these came from. It's worth pointing out that it's not the easiest thing in the world to verify that these are the pattern of benches that were on New Jersey. Nobody walked around taking pictures of these things from their day-to-day lives. We've got a couple of pictures of cruise mess in use, particularly Thanksgiving dinner when Admiral Halsey was down there eating with the crew. We've got pictures of him and his staff and some of the enlisted sailors all sitting on these benches. But we don't just have a like, here is the bench, this is what this looks like. And the ship was so crowded with people during World War II that there's hardly any time that cruise mess doesn't have people in it. So real hard to get that sort of idea, but the benches are in the background or under the people in a lot of the pictures that we have. And it's cool to think that if the battleship had, I don't know, an 80 or 100 enlisted mess deck benches down there in cruise mess, there's a 1 or 2% chance that this is the one that Admiral Halsey sat on, assuming that they are the ones from this ship. And if not Halsey, then still hundreds of sailors from this ship during the Greatest Generation who served on board in World War II and the Korean War, who then went on to have full lives after that. So this is a really cool human artifact, just a piece of everyday life that very rarely walks back through the door. Old things like this are just thrown in the dumpster. They don't get saved in museums. Nobody thinks they're significant. So we really appreciate when folks reach out to us with original World War II objects like this. There's a link in the description if you'd like to reach out to us. Please, please, please reach out to us first. Don't show up with it. Our collections management plan does not allow us to just take an object you show up with. And there's a strong chance that what you reach out to us for we won't be able to accept, because we've got a finite amount of resources for caring for artifacts like this, so we can only take certain things. So please don't feel bad if you reach out with an object from this ship or from World War II and we're like, we've already got something like that, we can't really handle it. But there's a link in the description below if you've got something cool you'd like to reach out to us with. Battleship New Jersey receives operating support from the New Jersey Department of State, also from a number of other businesses and private individuals like yourselves. We really appreciate your support, your donations, both in money and in artifacts and material like this. And there's a link in the description below if you'd like to continue supporting the museum. You can also support us by liking, sharing, and subscribing so more people find out about the channel. Thanks for watching.